A brief mission objective was assigned to the members of the Apollo 11 crew: perform a manned lunar landing and return. Neil A. Armstrong, the Apollo 11 commander, was the first man in history to set foot on the surface of the moon. Edwin E. Aldrin, the lunar module pilot, was the second member of the lunar landing team. Michael Collins, the command module pilot, remained alone in his spacecraft, orbiting above the moon during the 28 hours in which his crewmates descended to the lunar surface and returned. Their journey to the moon began at 6:20 a.m. on July 16th, when they boarded the transfer van which carried them to the Apollo Saturn V launch vehicle at pad 39A of Kennedy Space Center. Thousands of dignitaries were present at the Space Center to view the Apollo 11 launch. These included Vice President Spiro Agnew and former President Lyndon Johnson. In the Launch Control Center, the countdown progressed smoothly with no unscheduled holds. As the clock approached the moment of ignition, all eyes were focused on the gleaming white vehicle destined to fulfill America's space goal set in 1961. For the sixth consecutive time, the Kennedy launch team had fired the Apollo Saturn V into space precisely on schedule. Apollo 11 rose from its launch pad at 9:32 a.m. on July 16th and climbed into space with unerring accuracy. The upper stages of the Saturn performed flawlessly to boost Apollo 11 into a near-Earth parking orbit. During the second revolution of the Earth, the Saturn's third stage was reignited to propel Apollo 11 out of Earth orbit into a flight path to the moon. Separation and transposition of the command module was accomplished as planned. Then, the command module moved in to dock with the lunar module and removed it from the Saturn's third stage. During the 1/4 million mile journey to the moon, only one minor mid-course correction of a possible 4 was necessary. On the third day of the mission, Apollo 11 was placed into a 75 by 61 mile orbit above the moon. Final preparations for the moon landing began on the fourth day, when the crew checked all systems aboard the command module and the lunar module. Then, on direction from Mission Control, the two spacecraft undocked and separated. Eagle was the code name for the lunar module, and Columbia was the call sign for the command module. 35 minutes after separation, the lunar landing craft began to descend to the moon. During the final approach to the surface, the crew noted that the landing point was in the center of a large crater. Armstrong took over manual control to fly to a smoother landing site 4 miles beyond the crater.
60 seconds. Lights on. 6. Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. Good. 40 feet, down 2.5. Picking up some dust. 20. Down 1/2. 30 seconds. Forward. Good. Okay. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. We copy you down, Eagle. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
For the first time in history, man had landed on another celestial body. The time, 4:18 p.m. on the 20th day of July, 1969. Immediately after touchdown, the lunar module was checked and prepared for liftoff. Armstrong then requested and was granted permission to leave the spacecraft earlier than scheduled. As he emerged onto the front porch, Armstrong activated a television camera and then slowly descended the last steps to the lunar surface. Man's first step on the moon occurred at 10:56 p.m., July 20th.
I'm going to step off the limb now. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
One of Armstrong's first tasks on the lunar surface was to collect a random sample of soil in the immediate vicinity of the spacecraft. 19 minutes after Armstrong stepped onto the moon, Aldrin joined him on the surface. Aldrin described his view as magnificent desolation. The two astronauts then unveiled a plaque on the side of the lunar module. Here, men from Earth first set foot upon the moon. We came in peace for all mankind. The crew subsequently erected the flag of the United States of America on the moon. From the White House in Washington, D.C., President Richard Nixon talked with our astronauts on the moon and congratulated them on their heroic accomplishment. The astronauts discovered that walking on the surface of the moon was no problem, and that the spacesuits functioned better than expected. Aldrin demonstrated running and hopping in front of the TV camera. The astronauts then set up 3 experiments on the moon: a screen to measure solar wind, a seismometer to measure lunar tremors, and a laser reflector to bounce back light beams shot from Earth as a check on Earth and moon movements and distances. The remaining time on the lunar surface was spent in the important task of collecting 50 pounds of assorted soil and rock samples. These included 2 core samples of the top 5 inches of lunar soil. After spending almost 2 hours on the lunar surface, Aldrin returned to Eagle. Within a few minutes, Armstrong joined him in the spacecraft. At the end of a 21.5-hour stay on the moon, the astronauts fired the lunar module's Ascent engine to lift off from the moon.
Beautiful. 26, 36 feet per second up. 5 for the pitch over. Very smooth. Balance couple off. Very quiet ride. There's that one crater on there. Eagle Houston, request manual start override. Roger.
The final ascent of the lunar module was photographed by astronaut Collins as Eagle rose from a low lunar orbit to rendezvous with the command module. The 2 spacecraft remained a short distance apart while the astronauts aligned the vehicles in preparation for docking. Within a few minutes, the command module moved in to complete the docking. After the 2 moon explorers had returned to Columbia with the soil samples from the lunar surface, the ascent stage of Eagle was jettisoned. About 5 hours later, Columbia's main engine was fired to boost Apollo 11 out of lunar orbit. The 60-hour return trip to Earth appeared uneventful in comparison to the activities of the past 2 days. On the morning of July 24th, Apollo 11 streaked through the Pacific sky. The service module disintegrated as it hit Earth's atmosphere. The command module landed within 13 miles of its recovery ship, the aircraft carrier USS Hornet. Contamination safety requirements governed the rescue proceedings. Special isolation suits were worn by the astronauts as they were lifted to the rescue helicopters. Among those aboard the recovery ship, waiting to greet the astronauts, was President Nixon. The astronauts transferred from the helicopter to a specially equipped trailer on board the carrier. They remained in the trailer during the transfer to the Lunar Receiving Laboratory in Houston, Texas. The spacecraft was recovered and placed aboard the carrier. While President Nixon could not join the astronauts in the trailer, he did speak with them and thanked them for their heroic deed on behalf of a grateful nation. Sunday, July 20th, 1969. Man had set foot on the surface of the moon. The success of Apollo 11, its fantastic and unerring voyage to the moon and return, had proven the feasibility of NASA's Apollo program. the manned exploration of the moon had begun.